it's cold here as well. Hello, Dom.
Oh, Stephen, enjoying a little bit of sunshine here in Sarnia. It says that it's 3 degrees Celsius and mostly sunny, but they're calling for some really bad drops in temperature in the next couple of weeks, like negative 15, I think, was the lowest I saw.
Yeah, I mean we're waiting for snow, um, and it's threatened for the next couple of days. So we'll just have to wait and see. If you're watching us live, say hello. We'll see your comments and I'll show them on screen. But we have a topic today, and basically because we have Dom and Maria, hopefully will join us in a moment in Canada, and basically we're going to talk about Ottawa. Would you like to explain, first of all, Don, if you could explain where Ottawa is, because my Canadian geography is not too hot, and then what's happening?
What's happening here in Canada is there's the truckers are doing a convoy that have been going up to Ottawa to protest against the mandate, and there's a lot of funds raised for that, and the government is uh, intervening with that. And just the other day, my girlfriend drove through San Antonio, and the bridge was blocked off, and trucks were backed up for quite some time.
Right, okay.
Not bad.
Right, okay. We had, well, it wasn't my phone. I'm not sure what it was that went off then.
It was the main host phone. I could see it on the screen.
Right, okay. Right, so basically, I mean, whereabouts is Ottawa first? Because that we
Uh, Ottawa is from where I am is about a 10-hour drive.
uh-huh.
I'm on live on the internet. But yeah, it's about a 10-hour drive, and the truckers have been all coming into Ottawa from all across Canada. So, and yeah, it's, like I said, the government is trying to intervene to take the money that was raised by GoFundMe. Yeah.
Right, okay. Now, what are the truckers protesting against? What don't they like?
It's the mandate about crossing the border and having the immunization, like the boosters and the COVID shot, and they're protesting that against the mandate that they have in place right now.
Right. So basically, they're saying that they should have the freedom to be not to get the vaccination.
Yeah. Yeah. It's well, how do I explain it? Yeah, they're just protesting against it because they um, they feel it's against their constitutional right, and which honestly I feel it is a constitutional right.
I couldn't hear.
Good. Headphones help.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can check that.
I just got to try and find them.
Yeah.
Remiss of me. Hello, Nick.
Greetings, all. Greetings. Yeah, I've got a bit of an echo.
All right, bye-bye.
I might have to sort out my audio.
Yep. Yeah.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Oh,
You okay?
Yeah. respiratory therapist that just called me.
Right. Nick, we're just talking about Ottawa and the truck drivers, if you can hear me.
I can hear you.
All right.
I'm trying to get my crisp microphone on.
Ah, right. Okay. Right. And Corinda's just joined us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello, people.
Hello, Corinda.
Which software are you using today, Corinda, while Nick sorts himself out? Right. You need to reverse your camera because it's back to front. No, that's not it.
No.
No.
It's mirroring.
No, it's mirrored. It's mirrored.
It's all reading backwards.
No,
No.
we're not going to get there. The only way is to actually in your settings. No, but you're not. It's not the C920. It's the problem. On the vid, if you right, let's sort this out. If you click the cog at the bottom of the screen, yeah. So click the cog, go to video, and underneath your image you can see your C920. Underneath that you've got mirror camera. Can you switch that off?
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, that's better. I mean, I'm sorry about that, Corinda, but it would have annoyed everybody if we sat there trying to read it backwards. Okay, welcome. Okay, Nick, what have you heard about Ottawa and the truck drivers?
Oh, is this where they've been blocking the? Sorry, terrible. This is where they've been blocking the border between Canada and the US because of the.
Yeah, I mean, we
revolt.
Yeah. But basically, I know Don will correct me on this, but the truckers have been driving across country, doing what the French farmers do and holding up the traffic along the way. They've been through various towns. They've arrived in Ottawa, and they're in Ottawa city centre outside the Parliament buildings, and there's a total gridlock in Ottawa city centre. And the other thing that Don just mentioned a moment ago, there are bridges which connect Canada with the USA, and they have been blocked. Yeah. And people can not go from Canada to the USA, USA to Canada, because there's a effective blockade in, which means that people can't travel, goods can't travel, and as a result of that, as Don was just saying a moment ago, the price of petrol in Sarnia is going sky high because they just can't get deliveries through.
Yeah.
Now, some of this sounds familiar, Nick. If we cast our minds back to London.
We've had that. We've had petrol prices went through the roof. On the basis of like 3 petrol stations running out, there was a huge wild panic. And at the time, I likened it to there was a story I'd read that back in 1974 there was a massive salt shortage in the UK, and it all stemmed from a lady. I grew up in Slough, and so the Slough Reporter basically was out for the local rag and was interviewing people, and a woman in the street said to them, I'm a bit worried about the salt crisis because there's a strike in the Siberian, thank you, Siberian salt mines. So this is what the guy in the local newspaper reported. Yeah, it was like, this Siberian salt mine strike is quite. And then what happens is national papers look at all the local papers, and so the national papers picked up on this story. Next thing you know, there is a massive run on salt. And so the poor guy, the video I saw was an interview with the guy who was then editor of the Grocer magazine, saying there is no salt shortage. We have got the same amount of salt that we always have, but someone needs to tell. He's a bit sexist now. someone needs to tell the British housewives to stop buying salt. There's no problem, but they're buying it and they're stockpiling it. And so that is pretty much what happened in London last year, because the whole, well, not just London, the whole nation got caught. There was no massive problem with the supply, but everyone just rushed out and filled out their cars. Filled up their cars.
We had
But
that with toilet paper in Belgium.
Yes, same sort of thing.
Yeah.
When you have a rush, you have a rush. But I guess the truckers have got. Well, my feeling is the truckers have got a heck of a lot of support, and this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, and this is all due to the COVID restrictions and forced vaccinations, which is quite alarming when you think that our Prime Minister today said, "Hey, in England, all restrictions end of February off, no quarantining, nothing, back to normal."
Don, can you just explain the protest again and what they're protesting against?
They're protesting against the mandate of having to have the COVID vaccine shot, and they did have a GoFundMe page that had raised, I think it was like $1.5 million, and the government there had trying to intervene and take that away. I've seen a couple news stories on that, and they're doing the protest grocery store shelves and department store shelves. Their stock is decreasing, but the prices of everything have skyrocketed.
Yep.
So what used to cost you $50 for groceries, now you're probably paying double that. So
yeah, once the truck drivers stop working, then shortages arise and prices go up. I'm just going to share my screen. I'm going over to a Chrome tab. I'm going to bring it in. So just give me a second. If I can find the right browser tab.
Is that why the government is talking about it? Like Boris Johnson and all of the government are talking about it.
We're talking about Canada at the moment, Corinda. I'm not sure. Just let me bring this on screen. It might explain a little bit, and hopefully we should there. Okay, so basically this is how our newspapers are actually reporting it, Dom. They're saying that there have been arrests in Ottawa as Canadian truckers block the main bridge to the USA. And they've detained 23 people, and traffic has ground to a halt at the busiest border crossing in North America as Canadian truckers and others angry with vaccine mandates spread their protest beyond Ottawa. Trucks started blocking the Ambassador Bridge linking the cities of Detroit and Windsor late on Monday, closing down traffic in both directions. Now, if that's not direct action, I don't know what is. To actually close the border between the USA and Canada.
It's happening at the Blue Water Bridge here in Everett, which is only 10 minutes from my house. But same thing, the Blue Water Bridge, traffic is being blocked both ways.
Hello, Maria.
Hi, everyone. How are you? Sorry, I had some issues with my rentals. Always some issues. We have to take care of it later on this afternoon, so I had to take care of it.
Okay.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, Corinda. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Maria.
Hello, everyone.
Right, Maria, how have the truck drivers affected you?
Nothing at all. I'm happy they're speaking out. They're saying something and making a stand. And I find it really disturbing that the Prime Minister is only running away when there's problems. He did that with natives with the residential schools. He did that with the residential schools. He didn't go and see them when he was supposed to. There was something else, and maybe you could jog my memory, Domingos. He's done it a couple times already. So for me, he's not a man that should be leaving the country. He should be sitting down and talking to people, regular people. Forget about, what you're doing in Parliament. Should be talking to us, because whatever he's doing, he in Ford in Ontario, is affecting people's livelihood. And it's unfair. They have no problem. They get paid no matter what, right? But we don't. It harms all of our businesses and is killing small businesses. And the only business that is working right now, Stephen, is the real estate, and it's going up by $500,000 a month. Like, it's crazy. Like, the inflation is out of control. The whole thing is out of control right now. Somebody has to do something to put the stops on this.
I was trying to help my girlfriend and her kids look for a house to rent here in Sarnia, and the cheapest that you can get a house, and this is for a 3-bedroom house, single bathroom family dwelling. They want $2,200 $2,250 plus utilities for rent.
Yeah. Yeah.
The inflation has really gone up, and I agree that when people are selling their houses, they're getting more now for the houses than what they're actually asking for it.
I know. Yeah. It's crazy. It's runaway inflation. And you know what? This happened. Same thing. We're parallel to what's happened with the Roman Empire, the end of the Roman Empire. This is exactly what happened. What we're seeing here is what happened at the end of the Roman Empire. So we're going towards the downward slope here, guys, with the so-called American Empire.
Yep.
So what haven't you stop it? Like, what can the England do to help?
Yeah, I mean, we've got the same problem in the UK, and it's I think it's a global problem rather than just being a national problem. Perhaps Nick can help in a moment. We're told in the UK that our inflation rate is now 5.4%. When you look at the prices in the stores, and there was a survey done, prices have increased 20% in 2 years.
Yep.
And the food prices have increased 20% in 2 years. And the problem is that the inflation index, only 5% of it is food. Yeah? So the inflation index, if the food prices go up, the inflation index just goes a little bit up. It doesn't go up to reflect the changes in food prices. And we've got a situation in the UK, and be totally frank about this, we've got more people using food banks than we've ever had. Nick?
Yes.
In Belgium,
in Canada too. Terrible.
And it's not just food banks. We have charities called the Hygiene Bank that I did some work with the year before last, where just for basic hygiene products, this is for men and women, there's hygiene poverty. But it makes me laugh. I was, a few years back, I was pricing healthcare, and our customer was the MOD, and the argument we used to have with them was about health inflation, because the headline inflation rate was down at 2%, and they'd handed over control to the Bank of England, saying, "Oh, you can look after inflation now." This is like abdication of government responsibility on an enormous scale, in the interest of independence. So we had super low inflation rate. But the government equally decided to affect something called Agenda for Change, which gave all the healthcare workers and nurses nice pay rises, not totally deserved, but a lot of other elements, and basically medical inflation was running at about 20%. So the arguments we were having when pricing, because they were saying, "Oh, you priced in 20% inflation every year," but because that's what it is, and that's the thing. Government will pick the inflation for what it is, and at the moment, so I'm having a rant, but when you've got what was I saying? The echoes put me right off. But when you've got this inflation, this isn't consumer-led inflation in the UK for sure. So the only thing that the Bank of England have got, perfect. The only thing that the Bank of England have got to counter inflation effectively is interest rates. So by increasing the interest rates, they're going to increase inflation because they're going to put the prices of mortgage up and lend and borrowing up, which is going to feed through to industrial and manufacturing inflation. And you just think this is bonkers. And this we're reaping the massive pumping of money, quantitative easing, or we used to call it back in the good old days, deflation. And that's what happens when you deflate an economy, and we've been massively doing it since 2008. Then this is chickens coming home to roost, in my humble opinion.
You're right. That is exactly what it is. And I love it when they use words, terminology that you have to go and look in a dictionary or Google it to find out what they mean. When they say a quantitative easing, what that meant is they printed more money. Why don't they just say we're printing more money? There's so many lies. And the thing now, though, everyone, is we see through the lies. Since 2020, when we had the problem, with the virus, we are seeing the lies of what's going on, how they're manipulating the money, how the rich get richer, the poor get poor. There's more people on food banks. There's shortages of every sort that is being artificially done. This is all artificial. So they keep making the money, keep pumping, right? And we poor people are.
You've gone quiet, Maria.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I just turned off my mic so I wouldn't hear any reverb, but turning the mic off. I'm saying it's difficult for young people to buy a house and make a living and also find a great apartment or a house to rent.
Yeah. But Maria, what is it you think is triggering the housing inflation in Canada? Because that seems like super high. And the same in the UK. Our housing inflation's been crazy for years.
It's artificial. Again, it's artificial. What they're trying to do, there's a big plan. You may think, conspiracy theory, but no. If you look at what happened with the Romans, it's exactly what's happening now. I can send you a video where Mike Malone explains it and shows the parallel between the two. What happened with the money? What happened with the supply chain? They even had problems with the supply chain. Exactly the same thing, right? What they're trying to do is price people out of the market, and they put the prices so high, so when they can buy, it'll bottom out at one point. It's going to bottom out just like it did in the 1980s. Because I think I mentioned this to you, when I bought my first house, 1988, the interest rate was at 13%. The first mortgage was 13%. And they cannot raise the interest rate right now because people can't afford anything anymore. There's no money. It's circulating, but only for the very rich. It's not circulating for the very poor. All artificial.
Yeah. No, I've got to admit, that's the thing, isn't it? If a big hike in interest rates would crash the housing market, and we'd have a massive negative equity, as we did in the late 80s, early 90s, and that's when we had these huge. This is the thing, we went all that pain and struggle of reducing inflation and bringing it down, and then we just let the genie out the bottle again.
There is a secondary problem because house prices go up, rental prices go up as well. So everybody's paying more rent, and I think in London now the lowest places are being rented for £1,000 a month. Crazy. You can't get in. We've got a situation where in the UK you can't buy a house until you get over 30 because you've not saved enough money for a deposit. And now you've got the double whammy that you can't afford a flat unless you can afford £1,000 a month. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's but in saying that, Stephen, has that changed massively from when I was a teen? I remember thinking it was like 30,000 for a studio flat. I was thinking, how on earth am I ever going to earn enough to pay for a £30,000 flat?
Yeah. Do you know when it changed? It changed in 1972 when they took the dollar off the gold standard. And that's when the problem started. Because before that, you could only have so many dollars because you only had so much gold. But when they took the dollar off the gold standard, that's when the inflation started and people went wild. And that's when like, even the morality of the people, things that were going on before up until then were pretty steady, pretty conservative. For me, I thought the politicians cared for the people. But I look at the politicians now and I can't say they care for the people at all. They're not listening to the people and they only think about the money and lining their pocket and getting ahead. They don't care about the people because all they're doing is fighting all the time between themselves for power. They're not solving any problems.
I totally agree.
Sorry, can I defend the politicians? I know,
Sure.
totally unlike me. Don't fall off your chair, Stephen. Unfortunately, just by the nature of our democracy, and it is our democracy that might be the issue here, is that we have to vote. We are voting in governments on very short-term contracts. Effectively, there we go. We're giving them, like in the UK, we're giving them 5 years ago max, and you cannot put anything in place that is meaningful and make proper change in 5 years. And so it's that we've got a very adversarial, and you just have to watch Prime Minister's Question Time in the UK. We've got a very adversarial political system in the UK, and so nothing that's going to be worthwhile, an actual proper change, or to get a proper change, is going to be very, very, very difficult without a full cross-party consensus. And when it's just so adversarial, that very rarely happens. So we've got things like this, we've got something going on in the UK called HS2, which is just this money pit of infrastructure just to try and get to link the north to the south and get trains to go a little bit quicker. And yet they started it in the south where we got plenty of trains. It's all working well. So they started it in the north. I have a more understanding of let's link up the north and then join it together through the Midlands. But it just seems everything is very London-centric and very short-term political driven, and that's where we just waste gajillions, and we have no proper long-term planning. And it's not the fault of politicians, particularly; it's the fault of the system, which only allows them to put in these short-term plans for a quick political win. So everything becomes a political decision as opposed to a national interest decision.
But before, things were getting done. I mean, if you look at it
today.
Things were getting done before without all this infighting and all, whatever's going on. I think they lost their way when they took the dollar off the gold standard. And then you get the petrodollar, that everybody has to be using this, this US dollar. If you don't want to use the US dollar, then they go and they invade you and they put sanctions against you. Like it's crazy now. But it is like, there is something I posted on Facebook that goes right into it, that he discusses, and this is just written a day ago, where he discusses what's happening is so parallel what happened with the Roman Empire. And then he asked the question, what kind of healthy government democracy does what they're doing here? Like, this is not a healthy democracy anywhere. It's not healthy. It's not for the people at all. Democracy is for the people. It's anything but for the people. We're going towards a socialistic government, not a democracy. Not the way things are getting.
Yeah. See, now we're going in a bit of a full circle, aren't we? Because that's the thing. The Roman Empire wasn't built on a democracy. Far from it.
No, it was
so
republic.
And you go to communism, which is like the ultimate model of everyone all being part of the same principle, and we've seen how well that's worked in the past. So none of it is perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know the answer. That's why I can't give politicians too much of a hard time, because I would not want to be a politician.
Mm-hmm. In Belgium, we have a particracy. It's the parties against each other, but not for the people, only for their own pockets.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what happens. And there's the old saying, power corrupts and absolute power absolutely corrupts. So the higher up the chain you get, you can go and have parties in your garden when the whole country's locked down, and you can just ignore the people because you're only the people. George Orwell's Animal Farm. Great.
It is.
A great book, explains it all, doesn't it? That's the thing. So
Yeah.
one of the, actually probably the only book I read at school which made sense.
Oh yeah, I love that book. It really made me understand that they're all the same systems. They just have a different face, right?
Yeah.
And then 1984 also, George Orwell, right? 1984.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing with that one there. I think we have really seen that who really runs the governments. The Federal Reserve banks run the governments, even in Canada. You think really the prime minister has any right to say anything? He's following suit what the banks are telling him to do. And you really see that with Biden in the United States. You really see who's in power. They're always talking about Jerome Powell. Like he seems to be the president, never mind, the other guy. I mean, so we're seeing who's in power. The banks are in power.
I know. I think Biden's gone totally AWOL, hasn't he? That's
yes.
That's you go from one extreme to the you get one that won't shut up, and now you've got one. Hello, where are you? But also, I did see something today as well about, and it's just going back to the Canadian truckers, and I heard that they'd set up a GoFundMe campaign, and GoFundMe basically haven't given them the money. They've said you can't have it, even though they're sitting on $9 million.
Yeah,
it's like,
I know, but only
they have a crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah. But what's happened in the meantime is a politician in the United States listened to this, said this, and watch what happened. He made an announcement. We better check into the business of GoFundMe. Once GoFundMe heard them say that, guess what? They're sending all the $10 million back to the people who sent the money. Think about the power of these corporations. So what's happened in the meantime is that people are sending money through cryptocurrency, through another exchange. So then no one can touch that. And that's what we're seeing, how people or organizations or governments can shut us down. We have no control over our own money. We have no control of what we say. This has to stop. I mean, we've come to a point where you cannot hide any longer behind the skirt that you don't need to know. We need to know. This is our life, right? So you really see the manipulations of people in power. You really see it.
Are they saying we don't tell you for our own protection?
Yeah. Didn't George Orwell say in his book, 1984, you don't need to know this stuff, right? Just like in the Middle Ages, that the church or the government says, you don't need to write, you don't need to read. We'll tell you what the book says. Same thing. I mean, with Guggenheimer Press, that was one of the biggest things that happened to move people along with education. And then, at the turn of the century, we had electricity that moved people along. And now we have the internet. And now we have the cryptocurrency, digital currency that's moving us along a different line, completely different than we know. You can't stop the changes. It's happening.
Yeah, and many people will get mega wealthy off the back of it. And that's the thing. That's the only thing that, if we take it to its logical conclusion. So we've got this global unrest, certainly in the Western world. But what's the alternative? What happens? Do we have a mass overthrow of all our governments? I mean, where do we go? Sorry, I shouldn't be saying that on Facebook. I know.
Yeah, okay. I mean, talking of politicians telling us what to think or controlling what we see. In the UK at the moment, we are being told that because of Russia, we're on the brink of World War III. Is that true?
I would suggest not.
Propaganda again, right? Manipulation, propaganda again, right?
Yeah, because I don't think that does Russia any favors, because they make a fortune from selling oil and all these oligarchs. That's where they get all their money from. So setting off a war wouldn't be in their best interest. But then we wouldn't stand up to them. This is, it's all saber rattling about the expansion of NATO. Which actually, NATO promised they wouldn't do in the end of the Cold War. They absolutely stated there's no intention of expanding. Why would they? Because the Soviet Union had disbanded. So do you need NATO to then go and rock up on the Russian border? I would say probably not. So, yeah, we've architect of our own issues, but we won't stand up to Russia. They annexed Crimea, and the West sat back and went, "Oh, yeah, well, we'll put some sanctions on you." They could go in. They could go into Ukraine tomorrow. We wouldn't do a thing. We only pick fights with people that we can beat.
Okay, what's the view in Belgium, Chris, about Ukraine?
Well, in Belgium, we don't know. We see the news, but we don't know what is really going to happen. But I don't think there will be a war. The Russians don't need that. They don't need that, absolutely not. But you don't know with status and with power, there are also illogical things, emotions that can drive people, and that's always dangerous.
Right. Don,
it's like
sorry, Nick.
But it's like having Vladimir Putin, has basically been a dictator for the last 20 plus years, but he's held Russia together and kept it stable. So I don't think he wanted to destabilize that, as Chris says, does him no favors. And I feel much more safe now than I did in the mid 80s when there was the height of the Cold War.
60s in Cuba was possibly when everybody felt that something might go south. Don, what's the situation as far as you're concerned about Ukraine?
My concern would be that I would be worried about World War III. I heard that might end up being a possibility. And it would be a terrible shame to see that come to fruition, because really there's no need for it. And they've improved their intercontinental ballistic missiles that can travel great distances over bodies of water. I've seen news stories when Donald Trump was president about North Korea with all their missiles and their nuclear missiles, and that they're threatening to attack Guam, which is part of the U.S. And if they would have did that, then it would have started a war for sure with the U.S. And then I would feel that if that would have happened, it would have triggered war all over the world, guaranteed. And that's not something that we need, not especially not at this time, not during the global pandemic. Many lives have already been lost because of it. And to start a war, and it's just it's going to add to that death toll, and the world doesn't need that.
Stephen's gone.
Marie, your thoughts on Ukraine?
On what's going on with the Ukraine? I think it's again American manipulation. That's what I see, right? So they're always saying that the Russians are the aggressor, but who's coming all the way from the United States and putting the missiles at the border? Not Russia, the Americans. And I love it when they always say Russia's the aggressor. Russia's not the aggressor. The U.S. has bases all over Europe and has intensified their bases on the Ukraine border. So who is the aggressor? And I think I mentioned this to everyone the last time we had it. I did mention that the only way you can come out of inflation is either a deep depression or a war. And you will see in history, it has happened time and time again, that to come out of a depression and get out of inflation is to get the war machine going. So instead of the Americans picking on the Middle East, which they have been doing that, and putting sanctions against countries that don't want to buy oil from them or don't want to use their petrodollars, now they're picking on Russia. But Russia can go hand in hand with China, where they're very strong allies. If that were to happen, the United States has to back down. So I just see it again, manipulation, taking our minds off of what's really happening financially and saying, okay, let's get the war machines going. Like, what country in the world leaves billions of dollars of machinery in Afghanistan? Who did? The United States. Who does that? Who leaves that machinery, war machine, to their enemy?
I'm gonna take. This is like being on Blubbing for Britain, and that is a compliment because we've been going for 6 years. There is. I mean, we're all told because we've talked about the news agencies telling different stories, and we now know they tell different stories in different countries, which is fair enough. But the problem is that in the Ukraine, the Russians are the aggressors at the moment, not the Americans. The Americans are not going anywhere near. Germany's even further away. NATO's thinking about it. The Russians have over 100,000 troops on the Ukrainian border, and they don't need them there. They're there for one purpose, as a bargaining chip, as Nick mentioned earlier, against the expansion of NATO. But they could, if it was in their interests, go and take a city in the Ukraine, and there'd be nobody. Well, there wouldn't be sufficient force to stop them.
Wouldn't. And didn't Biden actually say? Didn't Biden actually say that a couple of weeks ago? Basically, he said something along the lines of, a full-out invasion of Ukraine will be met with full force, but if you made some insurgents somewhere, we'd probably just do sanctions or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he wants to put more sanctions.
Yeah, go for it. And as I said earlier, they annexed Crimea, for goodness sake, and the West stood back and did nothing. Yeah. So they've been emboldened, and Stephen's right. If you're massing that many, those hundreds of thousands of troops on the border, you are saber rattling. You could be as kind as that. They're just showing their might. I genuinely don't think that they want to start anything too serious. I mean, you're quite right when you mentioned Germany, Stephen. They've got one of the biggest. They've only just completed that enormous pipeline from Russia to Germany, haven't they? So the last thing they want is to put that in danger. So and Germany, that was one of the things about Germany when I lived there that I did like, was the Grand Coalition did actually make a lot of sense, and it stopped some of the more extreme, crazy ideas from coming to fruition that they had every now and again. But you touched on it though, Maria. I think we're more at danger from China than what Russia's doing on Ukraine. I mean, China are developing these hypersonic missiles. Their human rights record is atrocious. No one ever stands up to them. No country stands up to them. They always let them get away with murder because they produce so much. And our government with Cameron and Osborne were positively fawning all over the Chinese money, and that's why there are so many Chinese-backed buildings now in London. So again, it's all about the money, Maria, as you quite rightly say.
Yeah, it's all about the money.
And China are just, China are bankrolling Africa and African nations. Crazy. And for us, on my point of view, we're sitting, as a little island. We probably could be self-sufficient in oil if we allowed fracking. But until we run out of oil, then we're not going to allow fracking back in again for some.
No, we won't allow fracking back, because when we tried it, and we tried it on the west coast, we've got a town called Blackpool, which has a tower. Blackpool Tower was built just after the Eiffel Tower in competition with Mr. Eiffel to say we can build a bigger tower. Well, they didn't do that. But with the fracking, they did feel the tremors in Blackpool when they fracked in Fleetwood. Anyway, let's change the topic slightly. Who's watching the Winter Games in China?
No, I'm not.
Well, that went down like a lead balloon.
No, not at wow.
I'm boycotting them with their human rights record. I'm checking.
Canada are getting medals. I watched some brilliant earlier today. The Canadians are just rocking it at the moment, running away with, they're beating the Chinese are nowhere, even though they're hosting the games. The Japanese are doing very well, and Canada is doing well too.
I'm happy to hear that. I used to watch the winter games, like I used to watch the summer games, but I don't have regular television anymore. And I usually watch YouTube, and I watch, about everything about history and politics and business and all of that. So unless it comes across, the news channel that goes into YouTube, I really don't even know what's going on. Or if it comes across Facebook, Nick, if it comes across Facebook or MSN, when I'm going to go into an email, then I see it. Otherwise, no. Interesting, Stephen. How about everyone else here? Is anyone else watching them? Chris,
I'm going to get some shareable clips and put them on Facebook.
I see only some things on Facebook and on Twitter. When it passes there, then I see something, but I don't look at all. I don't have time for that.
Have you got a big Olympic winter team in Belgium, Chris?
That's also a thing that I don't know, really.
We're really good at going. Sorry, Don.
I haven't watched the Winter Games since I got rid of my satellite about 7 years ago. Is that satellite? It's really expensive, so I got rid of it and I got Netflix. So if I want to check anything out from the Winter Games, I just go see what they have posted on YouTube.
Yeah, fair dues. Well, we're really good at going down hills on tea trays, aren't we, Stephen?
Yeah.
You see, we've been given the impression that all Canadians are great winter sports enthusiasts. And now we find, sadly, that it's not true. Sorry, that was just light-hearted.
That's okay. Look, when I was growing up, Stephen, I used to ice skate all the time. We used to go tobogganing. I used to go downhill skiing, cross-country skiing.
See, that speaks to it.
Pardon me?
That speaks to exactly, Canada is winter sports.
Snowshoeing, yeah, for myself.
Taking part, not watching.
Yeah, I do it myself. I don't watch it as much. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's good exercise. And winter sports. When I was younger, I did cross-country skiing and snowmobiling, and I used to ride my dirt bike in the wintertime, which was a little more dangerous, but because I didn't have studded tires on it, so I would slip and slide. But snowmobiling was my favorite sport when I was a kid. Just to get up to like 75 to 80 mile an hour, it's a rush. And then when you stop the machine, then you think that's when the what ifs pop out. What if there was something under the snow? What if an animal ran out in front of me? Snowmobiles are fun, but they're very dangerous because you have no protection.
Yeah.
And that's why I stopped downhill skiing, Dom, is because I went down one time and I flipped and I landed with my arms forward and my back up with my skis, and I thought I could have broken my back. I said that was it, and I stopped. And because I can fall down and hurt myself, who's going to take care of my business if I break a leg? So that's why Steve and I have stopped doing a lot. Like I walk now, I walked yesterday in the snow. Today I'm going to go again where it's safe, where it's safe and not slippery, because I can't afford to get hurt. I can't.
That's true. Yeah.
So I've shied away from many sports because of that.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I did when I first learned this. My very first day on the ski slopes, I was lucky enough. I went on a school trip skiing in Austria. It was Innsbruck, Yeah, and we went up there. This was so old days that there weren't the little brakes on the skis. We just had to put the tapes around our legs. Super dangerous. And so, being I don't know, what was I, 15 years old, and they said, okay, so we had our big boots. We trotted up the nursery slope, and our ski instructor said, okay, put your skis on the slopes and put your boots in the skis. I put my ski on the slope, not realizing I hadn't attached it to anything, and it just went. And so I then had to chase after it with like the great big snow ski boots on, which is a blooming nightmare. And I was like, God, I was amazed they even let me back on the slope after that. But
Been there,
I
done
love it.
it.
I love skiing. I love skiing.
Yeah. Oh, I used to love it. Oh, yeah. But hey, I just enjoy walking now, hiking.
Exactly. Actually, the best one we did was me and my best man. We went up. We used to go in the summer because we love the mountains in the summer as well.
Yeah.
We used to go to Switzerland for a week just camping, and we actually went up the top of the Jungfrau. And of course, there's always snow up there. And we were snowing in shorts and t-shirts.
Oh,
Sorry,
wow.
skiing in
I
shorts
love
and
it.
t-shirts. That was so cool. It was really good.
For sure. How about yourself, Stephen? Do you do any winter sports?
No.
No.
No, I live in wonderful Wiltshire. It's sunny all the time. There is no snow. There's no chance. In England, the only time you get snow in England is if you went up to Scotland.
Okay.
And you go up to the Cairngorms. I mean, that's probably not true, but I'm going to use it as my excuse. We only get snow in Scotland or Derbyshire.
So you hike. That's what you do. You pretty much walk and hike, Stephen. And
walking and hiking. That's me. That's my sport.
Yeah. And cycling. You cycle. I love cycling. I cycle, but in the summertime, in spring, summer, and fall, when if there's no snow on the ground, I'm cycling too. Do you do that too, Stephen and Nick, and Chris? Cycle? No, that's my favorite sport too.
Yeah. Oh no, I like cycling. But I'm with you. I don't do it in the winter.
No, but I know some people that do it in the winter when they actually put snow tires on their bicycles, Nick, and they're they do. Oof, I could never do that. It's just a little bit too dangerous for me. A little bit too cold too.
Yeah.
How about Chris? Do you do any winter sports, Chris?
The only sport that I do, that's running to the train. And that's really the thing that I do. And I have to do that every day, every morning. But I'm always afraid when it's snowing or it's slippy, the ice, that's dangerous. And what do you do in Canada to be on your 2 feet and not on the ground, Maria?
Very good question. Okay, and I was hiking with my friend just 2 days ago, and there was a real slippery section. So what I do is I walk like a penguin, okay, like that. But I also put one foot in the snow and one foot on the ice. So if I were to slip, my leg in the snow would protect me. It would stop the fall maybe, but I have to hold on to things. And then after a while, I don't walk where it's really icy because it's very dangerous to fall down. I have fallen many times. Again, I don't want to break anything, so I try and stay away from slippery parts. Yeah.
Thank you.
When I go out with my wheelchair, I gotta make sure that the snow isn't any deeper than 3 inches.
That's true.
If it's deeper than 3 inches, my wheelchair has enough torque that my tires will just start to spin, and then I'll get stuck. And it's now that I've actually gained a bit of weight with me in my wheelchair, it's over 700 pounds. So for anybody trying to push that, they'll end up either straining their backs or their legs. And I don't want to see that happen. So I just opt not to go unless I absolutely have to. And I have transportation to get where I'm going. There's lots of options here in Sarnia. I don't know about you, Maria, but for wheelchair accessibility, we have Sarnia Caravan and Lambton LA Outreach and the Canadian Red Cross.
Yep.
We did have a wheelchair taxi here in Sarnia, but they took it off the road. So I'm hoping they get it back because with Caravan and Leo and Red Cross, you have to book them 5 days in advance.
Yes, yeah, I know about that. Yeah.
So I'm hoping they get the wheelchair taxi back. So if I want to be spontaneous and go somewhere, then I have that option. But that option is not available.
Yeah. I remember my husband who was in a wheelchair. He couldn't walk. He actually had a taxi cab come and pick him up, and I guess the guy helped him come out of his wheelchair because he could still hold on, to the doors and get in. And then he would collapse the wheelchair, put in the trunk. But he had one guy that's a very strong man that could do that with him. I mean, I couldn't do it. I tried once, and I said never again. It was very, very difficult.
When I first went into the hospital, that's that last really long hospital stay that I had. A lot of the staff at the hospital, because I had gained a fair bit of weight. When I went in, I was 166 pounds, and I am now just shy of 218 pounds.
Wow, you've gained weight.
Yeah.
Good.
I also, if I was to stand up, I'm 6 foot.
Oh, I was wondering about that,
Yeah, I'm 6 foot even. So 217 is a decent weight for my height.
Okay, excellent.
I wasn't comfortable at 166 pounds.
Yeah, wow.
Much.
Yeah, that's a little
Sorry,
bit
Stephen, can I just say, I just checked the Winter Olympics medal table.
Okay.
Because I'm a bit nerdy like that. And the winning at the moment is Germany. So not surprised at all. But in fourth place is the Dutch, the Netherlands.
Oh, wow.
They've got 3 gold medals. I can only assume in speed skating of some sort like that, something that involves very flat ground.
Yeah, the Dutch are good in speed skating. That's true.
So,
I was watching the speed skating earlier, and they were doing well. The Brits were in there as well. There were 10 people taking part, Nick, and we were 10th. I think that's quite an achievement, really.
I tell you, that takes some doing. That's a bit like our Eurovision Song Contest entries every year.
Right. Would you like to take a moment to talk about your course that you're running at the moment, Nick? You're running a course. Oh God, he's running several courses.
My editing,
the editing course, yes.
DaVinci Code, DaVinci Resolve. Yes, I was asked to. I use DaVinci Resolve all the time for editing, and I was in a group where it's called the 90-Day Video Journey, and so obviously lots of people are creating videos, and the point is that they want to make them for ads and things like that, and so I was asked whether I could put a course together. So I thought, well, being naturally lazy, I just thought, I know if I do it live every day, then basically I could just edit out my references to BeLive or TubeBuddy for affiliate links, and then just tighten it up. And it's true. The tightened up edited videos are much better than my live stream ones, but no, they're really good. I'm getting some amazing feedback. So I will actually make that into because it's free for that group, but I will make it a little mini course somewhere. But it's great because actually it makes me, instead of just doing the normal bits and pieces that I do, it actually makes me think about it a little bit more and go, okay, actually, let's think of something clever and funny that other people aren't doing. So so every day I'm doing a little DaVinci Resolve editing video training. The idea, really, my theory was I'll do little 3-minute sections. But I think the first one was 30 minutes, and then today's was about 15. We need tightening up.
And DaVinci itself, how much does it cost?
Oh, it is completely free. I've used Premiere Pro in the past, Camtasia, ScreenFlow I paid for. But yeah, I get better results out of DaVinci Resolve, and that's totally free. I mean, you can have a paid version as well, but the free version is just so epic. It's incredible. We're on version 17, which is still in beta, so there's still some little niggles in it. But 16, which is the free version of 16, which is no longer beta, is should be totally fine. But as you know, Stephen, like you, like to go cutting edge beta testing stuff. So always go that. Yeah. You taught me well.
Right, and well, that's it. We've talked ourselves through the hour. Absolutely brilliant. All right, put your hands up if you'd like to close the show. Maria, it's over to you.
Oh, I thought you meant should we vote to close? Well, you know what, everyone? Very nice having you join us here on our show with 5 wonderful international speakers and business people and YouTubers and Amazon Live too. So we'll see you next week, same time. And say hello. Have a wonderful weekend to everyone. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.